Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the London Comic Con. Where are we? Come on. Let's get crazy here. What happened on Wednesday night on TSN? Who saw that?
I'm back again.
The man that's just about to walk out here, he just went through a coffee table or something like that.
I couldn't believe it myself.
I couldn't believe it. I said the show's canceled. He ain't coming to London after that.
Game over.
You guys are so lucky. The first stop of this AEW whirlwind that's taking over the professional wrestling world starts right here in London, Ontario. I can't even believe it. You're so lucky. But let's not waste any time. You guys got a lot of good questions, I hope, right? All right, then let's get him out here himself. The one, the only, the cleaner, coming to London, Ontario, Mr. Kenny Omega.
Hey everyone, how's everyone doing today? Doing great, I hope. Thank you all for coming down. You know, I actually walked by this room the other day and I said, gosh darn, that's a lot of chairs. It made me a little nervous, but geez, you guys really filled this place up. And we got so much cool and fun things going on, but you decided to spend your time here, so thank you so much. Let's make it a fun hour. Hopefully you have interesting questions so I can have an interesting answer that I get myself in a lot of trouble as usual. So,
My oh my. Yeah, well, and thank you for taking the time out of what I can only imagine is a pretty busy schedule to be here in London, Ontario at the
it's
Comic-Con.
become busy now that we have something going on weekly. So I will always, it's, I'm not used to that kind of schedule, as you guys know. I came from living in Japan for over a decade, so we would do a touring schedule where you're doing matches almost every day, but then you have like a chunk of time off. But now it's sort of more scheduled where every week you're doing something. And, you know, being someone who has to work in the creative end of things, it's not that I just show up on Wednesday, right, and do a match. I'm there at least 2 days before, and we're sort of organizing and getting everything ready for the shoot itself. So it's almost like a 3-day event for us, which doesn't leave for a lot of spare time. But I made sure to set this time aside to come out and visit you guys before things got too busy. So thank you for holding this event at a good time in my life, and thank you guys for coming out.
Now, you touched on living in Japan, dominating Japan for 10 years, dominating and obliterating the independent scene perhaps before that. You're doing AEW, creating this wonderful new wrestling promotion. And we're noticing online that you're kind of losing your mind a little bit, Kenny. What's going on? I mean, we're all seeing the Twitter posts.
Oh, yeah.
The videos. Yeah. What's happening?
You know, it's difficult, man. You know, you go from one part of your life and it segues into another, and there's this expectation that you're supposed to be the man holding up a company, a man carrying a company on its back, and then I'm not that man right now. You know, right now, our first ever champion is Chris Jericho. You may have heard the name.
I don't know about that guy.
And you know, when I thought that I'd be able to vault myself into a position where I could be a main eventer, my opponent hurts himself. You know, and then in the next event, we have another main event, and then we're working towards Full Gear, and I probably won't be in the main event of that one either. It's very strange to find myself in a completely original situation, but you know, my hands are full with TV. You know, as you guys may or may not know, I also oversee a lot of what we do with the women's division, so that's another one of my very most prideful projects right now. It's my pride and joy, but as a performer, you know, I'm also very prideful of my own performances, and I hope that very soon, you know, people can stay healthy, and if opponents that are up to spec, up to my level, are available, I hope to give you guys performances that you're used to seeing from me up until this point.
Well, that's good.
All right, so we all kind of know the timeline of the AEW situation where the core members of the Elite contract was up January 1st, and you guys were hinting at something was going on. You guys watch Being the Elite? You know, Being the Elite, an amazing way to kind of keep up on a storyline situation before you have a television deal. But like, when did you guys really? It went from an idea to when did things really start to solidify, where you kind of knew that this was going to actually be a real company?
So was probably like 6 months before my contract was even up in New Japan, and we sort of knew that this was going to be a real thing. And there's a lot of questions in the air because we've all heard it before. If you've been in the business as long as we have, myself and the Young Bucks, 2 decades already almost, you've heard the same song and dance many times before. Some guy that's got big dreams with a lot of money and deep pockets, they want to start a promotion. They want you guys to be the focal point, and they think they can really shake things up. This is probably, 6th, 7th, 8th time I've heard the story. And it's tough to keep believing in it every time around. And but with Tony, he's something felt different. And anytime we got him on the phone, anytime we got him in person, you could tell that there was a seriousness in his tone and that in his Tony, and that you knew, right. And you just sort of felt that something was going to be very different. This could be actually something that panned out, and we put all our chips in that basket, and we thought, what, if we're going to really take a chance on something, maybe now is the time, because we knew that there needed to be a change. As much as I was happy with how things were in Japan as a country, there were things about the way that, within the infrastructure of New Japan, where I was like, if we ran things a little differently, we could hit more markets, or we could make people more happy, or we could round out a card a little better, or feature more talent. And these are things, of course, I'm sure every talent thinks that as they're on a show. Like, I wish they would do things this way so I could be featured better, or my friend could be featured better, or this guy that I see talent in could be featured better. But of course, you don't run the company, so you don't make those decisions. And with the Bucks and I, having, being the Elite, of course, as a series, we've sort of used that as a platform to feature guys that didn't necessarily have a spotlight, but we believed in them. So we're talking about guys like Flip Gordon, even guys like Fat Ass Massa, you know what I mean? Right. We believe that this guy is a character, and this guy can entertain people, and that if they watch them, people will they'll take some sort of enjoyment from them. So much in the same regard, we wanted AEW to be that platform to build all of these new stars, guys that are trying as hard as they can, guys that are dedicating their lives to wrestling and being performers, and to give them the platform and the spotlight. So a lot of people thought it was going to be an ego project, and it's absolutely not at all. This is something for us to show the next generation. I couldn't be more excited for it, but I also realize now, as time passes by, that I still have a responsibility myself as a performer to keep being the Kenny Omega that you guys expect me to be.
Amazing. How did, were you guys surprised after the first airing of Dynamite to learn that it was, I think, the highest rated sports entertainment broadcast of the evening? Was that a goal? How do you measure success in terms of that, personally?
It's funny you say that. How do you measure success? And for me, I came up, locally. And then I had sort of started in a very small indie in Japan. And if I was proud of my performance, and if a live house was proud of my performance, and I could get a reaction, that was always enough. And the fans that believed in us and the fans that have supported us since day one, if they were happy with our product, to me, that is enough, because that's something to build on, and word of mouth is going to travel, and then they're going to tell their friends, and they're going to tell their friends, and then next thing you know, you have this very passionate group of fans that are happy and entertained with what you do, and they're legitimately invested in what you do. It's not like a traveling circus where it's, hey, Ma, hey, Pa, circus is in town, and, they show up, and once the show's over, it's done. It's out of your mind. You came to the local show, you came to the local attraction, it's done. You're not going to follow up on storylines. It's just a one-time deal and it's over. We don't want to create fans like that. We want fans that want to invest into our storylines, that want to hang on what we do every week, and to see not only the starting point, but the middle point and the end point as well, and the finale, and then where things go next. And if there's a season 2 and season 3, you know what I mean? We're in for the long haul. We're trying to build a fan base that can be entertained with what we do and appreciate what we do. So I wasn't looking for a one-time number, or I wasn't looking for the people that are just tuning in to try something new and they'll never tune in again. It's great that we pulled off such a great rating. You know, it's great that people enjoyed the show. But I want to be able to look back months from now, years from now, and I want to hear the feedback then from people that say, I loved the way that this storyline played out from start to finish. That'll be the ultimate sort of feeling of, yes, we did it as performers and storytellers. But I know that in the wrestling business that isn't how you're supposed to look at it. But for me, as a performer and as an artist, that's what I place the importance on. And luckily, there are 3 other EVPs that care about other things. Because, it is a business. Dollars make sense. We need to look at the numbers. We need to make sure we're selling merchandise. We need to make sure that we're hitting, new demographics and all that. But for me, it's all about the product, and it's all about how much people feel the product and how much they believe in it. And after the first reception and the reviews of the first episode, I'm in a good place, and I'm feeling happy about it. But again, it's a sort of like, I don't want to make any sort of judgment on us as a product until a couple months down the road, or until we kind of close the book on our first major storyline. And it's sort of like, now, how did you guys think about that? Was it a success? If not, how do we change it? How do we make it better? That's the kind of person I am.
Excellent. Now, I mean, I can only speak for myself, but the people we watched it with the opening night, the first show felt exactly like a pay-per-view. Like, was that an intentional goal? Like, we couldn't even believe it. When we got a commercial break, we were like shocked. Like, oh my God, we're watching TV. We're not watching a pay-per-view. Like, there was very little interview-based.
We missed the hot dog.
We missed the hot dog because
Right.
But is that going to be the format of the show, pretty much week in, week out, or do you think you're eventually going to start doing more interview bits in the ring that take up a lot of time and bore everyone like the other guys?
I mean, we got a lot of young studs on our crew and guys that are very athletic, and we can keep a very high-octane pace from start to finish. And I think the only thing that'll differentiate from a pay-per-view is just the runtime. I mean, we only have a 2-hour slot. We do have commercials. We're lucky to get the PIP, which is fantastic. But I think you're going to see a lot more of what you just said. It's going to feel like a pay-per-view every time because our guys are going to be giving their all every week. We're still young. We're still healthy. We're very passionate about what we do. No one's punching a time clock and just saying, okay, just give me my paycheck. You know what I mean? I'm just here to collect the paycheck, and I can't wait till my contract's up. None of the guys are like that here. Everyone here wants to do something big, and they want to show the world that they have the potential to be a real household name and a star. And so you're going to see guys pushing their limits, and you're going to see guys doing things you've probably never seen before on national television.
Amazing.
In this, how are you able, or when did you realize that you were able to sort of cross over? And I'm sort of changing a little bit, but with the video gaming, and we watched you playing last night.
Yep.
How were incorporating video gaming into your persona, because I would say there's just as many people familiar with your wrestling career as they are with your love of video gaming and your contributions to that world. How are you able to bridge the two, or when did you see a possibility to do that, or did it just happen because you love video games?
I mean, yeah, I'm noticing it more and more that people are recognizing me as a video game personality. But I mean, you'll get some hardcore wrestling fans that'll just say, what do video games have to do with wrestling, and how has it helped at all build or cross over to the wrestling world? There's still that sort of, to some people, it's still black and white, and it's unfortunate because I think there's so much crossover potential, and a lot of people do see it too, and I'm still going to work towards bridging that gap. And of course, we have I'm not the only one doing it, as you know. There are other people doing it as well. One of my arch nemesis, you guys know him, Austin Creed. He sees the potential in it as well, and he's very passionate about his games and his gaming. And even though he's not as good as me at anything, whether it be gaming or wrestling. I can commend his passion to trying to bridge that gap between gaming and wrestling and bringing the two entities together. And even now we have one of my good friends, Asuka, and she's doing the same thing with her YouTube channel too. So people are seeing the potential in it, and people are using it as sort of like a vaulting point, whether it be from one to the other or vice versa.
I assume as well you got the name The Cleaner from blowing in the Nintendo cartridges.
No, that was from using the Q-tip on the Nintendo cartridges.
yeah.
No, that's a very old tired story, but yeah, that's a New Japan thing.
Yeah.
So an event like this, it features a lot of things that's kind of been based in Japan, video games, anime, things like that. I wonder if you could maybe tell us like what your very first match was in Japan and what your very first experience was, like as a Canadian boy landing.
Sure. So what a lot of people don't know is what my first match was in Japan. It was somewhat televised, and actually the digested version, like sort of the clipped version of the match, televised is hilarious. It's so good, and I hope I could show it in some capacity at some point. But there was a tag team, and long story short, the character name was Hero. He's a masked superstar, and there was another person who assumed that mask at one point in time in the career. So the tag team was Hero and Hero. And I was Kenny Omega, of course, and my tag team partner was Ken Oka. And so they decided to call us Kenny and Kenny. And the match ended up being, but I guess the comedy behind it was that one hero was great and the other hero was terrible. And then one Kenny was, me, and the other Kenny was terrible. And so we wrestled the same match, like mirror images of each other, with the two good guys wrestling with each other, and then the two not so great guys kind of mimicking what we were doing, and just the dichotomy of it, and then showing the split screen version of what we of. And the thing is, too, it wasn't by design. We constructed a performance. We fought. The way we fought was by design very difficult to mimic. We made it very hard to mimic, but we didn't do it purposely. It's so hard to explain, man. We set the other two to fail. We set them up to fail on purpose, knowing that you can't, if you're actually bad, it's funnier if you're bad on purpose it's fun if you're bad naturally rather than being bad on purpose. Because if you're trying to be bad on purpose, it looks like a bad act rather than look funny. So we kind of set them up to look like schmucks, and they knew that. And that sort of lent itself to the comedy of the match. And it ended up being, but in the end, it sort of blended together and all made sense. Again, I'll see if I can upload it somehow, some way. Even just the highlighted version is real funny. And it's like the kind of stuff that I'm really into, where it's like you can't see it anywhere else. Even explaining it now, it's like I can't tell you guys another example of where you could see what the idea was. In DDT, we had so many matches like that, where it was like we had this one match, this one time, and you can't really find a reference point anywhere else in professional wrestling. It was this one match in a certain point in time, at a certain place, and there's the only time to ever watch it. That's what makes DDT so fantastic, and why it holds such a place in my heart to this day, and why I'm going back.
Right. Amazing.
Were you a fan of New Japan before you went to Japan? How did you go from North America to Japan, where so many other wrestlers kind of choose North America? Maybe there are companies here that they aim for. What?
Yeah. You know what? I was doing local stuff, and we would do, even though we would do local stuff every Thursday night, every Friday night we would go and we would either, if we taped our matches, we would watch the show back, and then we would watch all of the world's wrestling, and whether it be just for our enjoyment or just to study, we would watch tapes from like 7 p.m. or so to like 6 a.m. And a lot of the stuff ended up being, we would watch everything. But in the end, we kind of more lent towards watching Japanese strong style. And in the early 2000s, we were watching a lot of Pro Wrestling Noah. But we would go back in the early 90s, and that's when New Japan and the J-Cup and all that, Best of Super Junior, we'd watch a ton of that type of stuff. We liked everything, but it just so happened that as I was coming up on the Japanese scene in 2008, 9, 10, that's when New Japan had a huge turnaround, and that's when the Best of Super Junior at the time was really something to aspire to be a part of, because you had this company that rose from the ashes to kind of become this new major powerhouse. And if you were an indie guy and you weren't a heavyweight, that's what you wanted to be, the one of the two guests to be in the Best of the Super Junior. That was the most prestigious honor you could hope for. So yeah, I would say as a fan, I was a fan more of early 90s type stuff. Then there's sort of the Inoki period or whatever, when they did a lot of MMA crossovers, which had some interesting stuff, but that wasn't what I was a big fan of. I was more of a fan at that time of Pro Wrestling Noah, even Dragon Gate I was a huge fan of. But yeah, going back to my time in Japan, 2008, 9, 10, yeah, all of us, we looked up to the wrestlers in New Japan, and we all wanted to be a part of it if we had the ability or if we had the chance.
Leading up to your appearance, we would post weekly Kenny clips on the site, and one of the most well-received ones was when you actually spoke Japanese at the G1 Climax. I'm wondering, because you could actually feel the energy of the audience on that night, the respect that you knew the language so well. And did you notice that had a direct impact of your status over there that they now,
Yeah, it was. It was an emotional tournament. It was one of the. It was very strange to go into that tournament. I was sort of like a permanent fixture in the Bullet Club, and usually it was. You go in with your crew, right? Every match, and it was always Bullet Club hijinks, and then you would just do your thing, and then it was really pattern based, and we were kind of. It was my first opportunity to not only step out of that pattern, where it was just let's do the Bullet Club thing, and it was out of the frying pan into the fire, because not only did it change just by a little. I went from multi-mans, on little house shows, to having these big featured singles matches where there was not expected to be any interference. And I'm going the distance, going 20, 30 minutes. And then finally, near the end, probably, even there's no time limit in the finals. So just from that, it really felt like, even though I was a part of the Bullet Club, it felt like something else within me had changed, and that everything had changed. And it slipped in my mind that the Bullet Club cleaner, the guy that was instructed to not speak Japanese, was suddenly speaking Japanese to a live crowd. And, that was my folly. I deserved a slap on the wrist for that. But what was done, and in the end, the company was like, wait, that was actually a good idea, right. So sometimes things happen just based out of raw emotion, and it can lead to your demise, but in this case, it worked out for the better.
Amazing. I know we're going to get to the audience quick. I just wanted to say one more thing. I saw Tony Khan mention the other day about Jericho going back to Tokyo Dome to fight Tanahashi. And,
okay.
he said that maybe maybe the favor could be returned. Do you think there's ever a chance that a New Japan wrestler would appear in AEW for as a one-off, or never say never?
Yeah. Door's always open, man. Like, what people don't realize is that our door, there is no door. It's just this huge archway. It's like, just walk through if you want to, man. We'll work with anybody. It's always, I'm not sure what the image is in like what the public image is of our company, but there are zero restrictions with AEW. If you are a performer and you want to test yourself, you have something to offer, we'll work with you. And that's why, we're working with companies like DDT and Tokyo Joshi and Pro Wrestling Wave and Stardoms and AAA and everybody. It's when these strange little caveats come into play, or people just simply don't want to play ball for whatever reason at this point in time. That's why these deals don't happen. But if it were up to me, and solely up to me, you would have guys from New Japan coming down. You'd have guys from even WWE coming down. NXT, I don't care. There's so many good guys everywhere. And I just want the fans to win, So if someone tells me like, hey, this guy is good, or I think this guy is better than you, to me, for one, I've probably met that guy, and he's probably my friend, And then for two, it's like, okay, cool. Then why don't, there are some people that think I'm better than that guy. So why don't we give the fans a gift, and we'll have this guy that a lot of people think is better than me versus me, which a handful of people think I'm better than him, and then there's no loser. I'm all for that, and I don't care if I win. You know what I mean? Clearly, look at my record in AEW. You know what I mean? It's all about the performance. Again, like I said, I'm an artist. I'm a performer. I just want the end result after you've watched it, after you've experienced it. If you felt something and you walked away satisfied, that's good enough for me. I don't care if I'm walking away with a W in my column. So a W in my W column. Is that how it works? You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, anyone that says, hey, I think Adam Cole's better than you, okay, cool. I'll wrestle him. Or I think Matt Riddle's better than you. Okay, cool. I will wrestle him. Door's open. I think Will Ospreay is better than you. The door is open. And like,
What about Goldberg?
We had a Goldberg guy here yesterday.
Did he say something? Or are you just saying that?
No.
Oh, okay.
The guy yesterday, the Goldberg guy yelled at you.
Oh, that guy. He beat me in under 2 minutes. He beat me in under 2 minutes is what that guy told me. Well, hopefully that first minute and a bit would be somewhat entertaining.
Yeah.
Depends if he chooses to take a bump or not, probably.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is a fan event, so anyone out here got any questions for Kenny? All right, I'm going to walk the mic over to you.
Is that operable?
Is this one work?
We test it.
Hello? Oh, well, we're going to line them up. Okay.
That might work well, actually, if you do one side and the other, just bounce back and
Okay,
forth.
well, we'll start with this gentleman over here.
Okay.
Hi, Kenny. So,
What's up?
Not much. Just to go back to what you said earlier about
Yeah.
you saying you didn't know necessarily exactly what the fans are looking for
Yeah.
when it comes to AEW, I can tell you what I was looking for, and it was that first press conference where you said that AEW is open for everyone, regardless of sex, gender, attraction. AEW doesn't care about that. AEW cares about, can you perform, and
Yep.
do you want an outlet to perform? So I want to personally thank you for that, because that's what really, one of the things I really love about AEW. My question is, out of all the people that you haven't fought, either on the independents or in AEW, who is the most interesting person you'd want to get in the ring with?
Oh man, I don't know if you guys knew this or not. There's a variety of answers, but I'm actually like a huge John Cena fan. I think he's so good. I honestly think he's I think he's one of the best of all time, for real. And just because public opinion is very positive on him, and I've never actually wrestled him, and I think he's got an incredibly creative mind. And again, like I said, this is some guy that people would say, hey, he's better than you, man, and that's cool. I'd like to wrestle a guy like Johnny Gargano. You know what I mean? Because he's trying hard. He's doing some big things, in almost in kind of the same way that I try to do with New Japan. You know, when I was given the ball, it's in a very different way. But I think that styles make fights, styles make good matches, and we could probably have a real good one. So, I mean, that's a guy that we were always in the same promotion, like, or always traveling in the same circles, but we never tied it. We never even made contact once. So to kind of, and even like Matt Riddle's another guy too. It's like, you know, near the tail end of his indie run, you know, we were in like PWG and, you know, in and around the same kind of indie areas, but no contact. So it's like, I missed the boat on a lot of these guys where, you know, we could have done at least something cool in the indies, and we never did. So it's the door's open to that, man. And I hope somewhere down the line it's possible. And I guess I'll have to say, like, even a guy like somebody even made like a poster. It was pretty cool, but like kind of made me get goosebumps. But like just seeing a fan made poster of me and AJ on it, I was like, man, like we got to do that match. It's just like, how? I don't know, but it'd be nice. That's it.
Hello, hello.
What's up, man?
Do you mind if I take two?
Take two?
Like 2 questions.
Sure, if they're like rapid fire ones,
Okay,
man.
okay.
I babble a lot.
No, me and my best friend both have a question.
Sure.
So, a little birdie, my best friend, told
'Kay.
me that you are the best Alex player in all of America.
No, not anymore, man. I was an entertaining Alex player, but I wouldn't say the best. There's some great Alex players now.
Well, I'm making a fighting game, so I want to know what your opinions. How do you think Alex works? How does he work as a character? What do you like about him? You can be brief about this,
I sort of, yeah, okay. I like big-bodied wrestling characters,
of course.
and I also like my characters that are sort of lower tiered, because then the best players, we're talking like pro players, they kind of veer away from them. So it becomes really rare. It becomes really rare to see them in like high level tournaments. I don't know why, but I just always sort of stray away from the types of characters that are always used in tournament. So yeah, for Alex to be such a cool character design, to be a pro wrestler, to have cool theme music, cool move set,
Just kind of worked.
yeah, it just worked. Yeah.
I get that. And the question, my best friend, who's a huge fan of you, by the way, he wanted to know how you, as a Canadian, managed to get a hold of a VHS of Kota Ibushi when you were a kid.
Okay, yeah. So that is a very good question. This is kind of when the internet was sort of becoming a thing, and you could actually make like online purchases and stuff. There was no PayPal, and I think you did have to still make phone calls, like to whatever address it was, and then give like entrust that person with your credit card information. But there was a tape trading site, and I believe the tape trader was actually based in New York. They're on the East Coast, and we would make these orders, and it was very fair pricing for the indie stuff. It was like $5 a tape, and then if you get to like the New Japan stuff and like the Noah stuff, that's when it would get to like 30, 35. So we would do like, okay, what was the big Noah show, and then, you know, like whatever Final Navigation or whatever. So boom, we know it's going to be a great show because, you know, Kobashi's in the main event against like Takayama or something. So we get that for sure, and then it's like, well, we got like $20 left. Let's just pick a random 4 indie tapes because he can't get a pay-per-view anymore because we only, you know. So let's just get 5 tapes all together to make our night really like rounded out and full. We'll watch 4 indie events, and we'll main event with like this big major league pay-per-view event from our favorite promotion. And then that's how we ended up finding like promotions like Kaintai Dojo and stuff like that. Taka's running his own thing. There was a promotion named Fuck Wrestling. It's just and it's just some of the most funniest things you'd ever see. And of course, there's DDT, and like at that time, they're doing really weird stuff too. Like they're doing like monkey ladder matches, and where you'd climb the ladder and you have to get like a bunch of bananas and stuff. It was very strange, but you know, that's how I first saw Ibushi, and you know, and I saw some other familiar names, like, you know, Dick Togo was in the main event of that show too. So I was like, okay, this is probably an up and coming promotion, so I should keep my eye on it. So I would get more tapes, and then eventually they had the what was it called? Differ Cup, it was called, where all of the indies or all the main indies would have this once a year tournament, a tag team tournament, and it would have like Torimon versus Noah versus DDT versus IWA Japan.
You could bring
and it's
that
like,
back.
It was such a good tournament. They did it, I think, only like a grand total of 3 years until everything fell apart. But great shows, and it really showcased just how diverse all of the styles and how all of Japan's talent is. So if you guys ever have something you want to look at, just I would say look at the Differ Cups. They're great. So
All right,
yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, Kenny.
What's up?
Thanks for doing that match with that little girl way back, because it helped me get this little girl into wrestling. So thank
wonderful. Yeah.
you. I watched Dynamite on Wednesday, and I've been a fan for a long time. I'm
Thank you.
42. I loved hearing Tony Schiavone again. But I want to ask you,
Uh-huh.
was it a conscious decision on your part, or on the network's part, or on no one's part? They did a lot of, it's been 20 years since we've been on TNT. It's been
'Kay.
20 years, like, did you mean to harken back to resurrect those ghosts of WCW, or was it a ghost of TNT? What are you trying to bring forward with, and I mean, I love the reminders of WCW, thank God.
Uh-huh.
What are you guys exactly trying to do for bringing those memories back up for us?
So again, like I said, we are. This is sometimes these things sort of happen when you have so many, when you have a lot of cooks in a gigantic kitchen. And again, for me, my focus is always going to be match quality, storylines, and of course for me, the women's division. And when it comes to reminding the fans over and over and over and over and over that, we haven't seen anything like this in 20 years, or you haven't seen, pro wrestling shakeup like this in 34 years or whatever it is, and this is the Wednesday Night Wars and things like that. That's not me. I could really care less about stuff like that. Like, I just know it's interesting. I know it's fun for people to think about stuff like that, and it's cool trivia, I guess. Like I watched WCW in its heyday. I watched the Monday Night Wars, and I can't trying to put myself back in my shoes and like teenage Kenny Omega's shoes. I don't know if I was necessarily even rooting for one over another. Like, I think I would flip back and forth just depending on what I liked. Like, I think I liked the heavyweight scene better in WWE, but then I would always make sure to watch like the U.S. championship stuff with WCW. I would make sure for sure to watch the cruiserweights in WCW. There was stuff that I liked, and just like whatever I liked better, that's what I would watch. And then people weren't, it wasn't, there was no social media and stuff like that. So it wasn't like you had to pick a side and then make an anonymous name on social media and then defend that to your grave. I wasn't pathetic like that. You know what I mean? So it's so different for me. And thus, I get why, from a company standpoint, you'd want to do that just because it's fun and that's just how people are in 2019. But that's not my focus. So, if it's interesting to you, cool, and it is a fact. You know what I mean? It's been a long time, but for me, I'd rather just focus on the storylines, and for me, I'm just really proud of our women's division, so I want to focus on that. So that's just me, man. Yeah, you bet.
Hi.
Hi.
I want to start off by saying that I absolutely love what you're doing for the women's division.
Thank you.
And the Nyla Rose versus Rio match was like my ultimate favorite. Like, I
Thank
was
you.
on the edge of my seat, and I really appreciate what you do for the women's division. Second, happy early birthday.
Oh, hey, that's a secret.
I just, when I saw your documentary, you said your birthday, so I was like, oh yeah, his birthday is this
thank
month.
you.
That's why. I'm sorry about putting
It's
you on
okay, it's
blast.
okay.
And last night when we were playing Mario Kart, I just loved how you were like so into the video games and everything and pop culture. And I know I've said this like 1,000 times to you. Like, I love like how you dress up and everything, incorporate pop culture into wrestling.
Yep.
Which for me, being a really big superhero fan, is like a relief because I'm a big geek too. So I like seeing that. So one question I never asked you though was, what is your favorite anime? Mine is Inuyasha.
It was. I mean, the answer hasn't changed. So I haven't found anything better than this for me. But it's a boxing anime called Hajime no Ippo. So yeah, if you guys know it, awesome. If not, you should get to know it. I think there's like a dubbed version called Fighting Spirit or something. Is that what it is? I mean, please watch the Japanese version. Just the voice acting in the Japanese version is so much better. But yeah, that's my favorite. I'm a huge sports anime guy. Like, I love all kinds of anime, but I find that the ones that I like the most are sports based. So I mean, I love your Hajime no Ippos. I love Slam Dunk. I love Haikyuu. You know what I mean? I love Yowamushi Pedal. It's just, and it's not necessarily even sports that I play. I never played volleyball. I played beach volleyball and never volleyball. I never did bike racing, but I love Yowamushi no Pedal. So it's like, it's yeah, just the stories of competition and you know how to deal with a loss and teamwork and, you know, times when you're alone and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The disappointment of defeat, all that stuff. I find that anime has done a real good job, more so than what, you know, Hollywood cinema has done. So I'm definitely a sports anime guy.
Okay. What's the name of your favorite anime again? I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Hajime no Ippo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You bet.
Hey, Kenny.
Yes.
Hi. Huge fan, actually. Actually, a friend of mine, he told me about your match with the 9-year-old girl, and then
Cool.
after I saw that, and the blow-up doll. So I'm wondering how you said, like, you guys are open to any ideas in AEW.
Yeah.
Would you ever do another match with the 9-year-old girl or the blow-up doll thing? How did that go in Japan? Like, what was the reaction to that?
It was
like,
huge.
Like, well, the blow-up doll thing, how was that? Like,
It was fantastic.
Do you think it would work in North America, too?
Yep.
Okay, all right, do it.
You know, it's funny, like, you hear, like, a live house go insane. They're going crazy. And you get that instant reaction of the people that watch the show, and they'll be like, you know what, that was so awesome. I've never seen anything like that. That was incredible. You did something original. You innovated. And then you wait 48 hours, whatever, 72 hours, even a week later. And then suddenly that's when the hatred starts to trickle through. And you know, those aren't the fans that watch the show at all. Those are people that are targeting you, people that are just looking for something to complain about. You know, I'm talking about you guys, about these pathetic kind of fans. And like those are those types. So it's like, when you talk about guys that are just universally, anything can be entertaining. And I believe in myself as a performer and as an entertainer that I can make something like that work. It's a true test of my ability. And I think that we have guys in AEW that can also make that work well as also. The Bucks can do it. You know what I mean? I can do it. A guy like Orange Cassidy can do it. You know what I mean? And I'd love to show that to the world. And I think that our fans especially, you know, if you've followed us on this journey already, if you followed us on this journey from a startup YouTube channel called Being the Elite up until now, chances are you're probably open-minded enough to take a chance on something that we think could be entertaining for everyone as well. And you're not going to be judgmental about it. I mean, if you hate it, you hate it, but at least you give it a chance. And I think that's the most important part. I think just people are very protective of what they like. You know, if they bet on a losing team, or if they just like something that's different, they don't want you to like something different. And if they are a member of some other kind of group, they don't want you to be a member of that group. So they're going to shun everything that you do over there. And that's just life, you know what I mean? And those people now, because they have a voice due to social media, because they can create a burner account, it's like it really empowers them and it makes them feel really special and important. But like I said, these guys are pathetic, man. And it's unfortunate that, you know, these types of people exist everywhere. And I would hate it if AEW had people like that as well, but we really want to be, you know, all-inclusive. We want to be just a positive atmosphere, and we don't want to be like that at all. Not the performers, not our fan base, not anything. We just want to be a very positive, sort of fun-loving environment where we're just doing fun, kick-ass shows. I don't want you guys to choose. I don't want you guys to judge anything in a bad way. You know, judge anything you like, of course. You know, like what you like. But yeah, being judgmental and shunning people for their likes or dislikes, you know, that's not what we're about. So, do I think we could do stuff with a blow-up doll? Yeah. Do I think you do something with a 9-year-old girl? Yeah. How about a 3-year-old girl? Sure. I don't care. You know, or a mother that's expecting, whatever. There's probably something. There's a way to make everything work. You know what I mean? Like, I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's always a way for it to work. We have a thing in Japan. He's probably the most popular character in all of Japan, right? He's a gigantic panda. I want to bring him over here. You know what I mean? His name's Andrea the Giant Panda, and he's probably like 12 feet tall. He's huge. Anyway, again, I said the door's always open, and it's wide open for all ideas, not just your favorite, current day serious wrestlers. It's open for everything. In my opinion, it is. And don't let a hardcore wrestling fan, don't even let the most respected wrestling critic tell you that that's wrong. If you guys enjoy it, yeah, or even that guy. But it's all about what you guys enjoy. Again, I'm a performer, and I'm in show business right now. I don't care if you guys think I'm a terrible wrestler. If you like my performance, that's good enough for me. I'm a performer. That's it.
Hi, Kenny.
What's up, buddy?
Not too much. It's cool to meet you. I'm a big fan.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you. I've got a hypothetical for you.
Sure.
Let's say that Kenny Omega gets a time machine. You've got access to any wrestler, living or dead, past, present. What's your dream match either to be involved in or to book?
Yeah, it's tough. My answer. I know it sounds so silly, and I'm thinking now, and my answer probably still hasn't changed. In his heyday, like we're talking in his peak physical condition, peak promo performance, and if the storyline was done right, I would want to do an angle, a wrestling angle, with Vince McMahon. I love all of Vince McMahon's big matches, and I loved his promos, like when he was on fire. You know what I mean? Now he's just, he is what he is. You know what I mean? But I mean, like in his prime, we all have a prime, right?
Yeah.
Maybe mine's like long gone. I don't know. Who
When
knows?
When was his prime, in your opinion, in fact?
I mean, like the stuff with Austin and all that. You know what I mean? Yeah, like
absolutely.
yeah. So he did a lot of great stuff with Austin, a lot of great stuff with The Rock and Mankind. Even the stuff when he was his angle with when DX came back was fantastic, and just stuff that you could always laugh at and chuckle. And when he got it back from them, it was something that you would cheer for. But at the same time, you'd cringe a little bit because it's like this guy isn't suited to take this kind of punishment, but he was willing to put his body through it. He was a madman, and you could sense that he had a passion for performing and for his company as the owner and operator. I'm sure he still has that even to this day. But he's probably a little more limited than he was like 10, 15 years ago, or whatever it was. But yeah, like McMahon in his prime, if I was in a position to be like a top guy and I could have like an angle with McMahon going back and forth with promos and just the weird stuff where cars would blow up, and you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of stuff I want to do, like bedpan McMahon type stuff. Like, everyone remembers that. It's fun.
Yeah.
Vince Russo had some pretty wild ideas back in the day. He did some of those Vince McMahon angles were really fun.
Okay, I hate to be the bearer on
Thanks a
bad
lot.
news, but this panel's running a little long, so we're just going to do one more question.
Sure.
Is that okay? And I
Yeah,
just want to
yeah,
let you
yeah,
guys
you
know
bet.
that after we're done, Kenny's going to be here for another hour and a half or so you can come up and say hi at the table and, ask some more questions there. But unfortunately, this is going to have to be the last question.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hey, Kenny.
What's up?
So my question is,
Uh-huh.
I've been seeing online and hearing rumors, is there a possibility of an AEW wrestling game?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's not even. There's just going to be one. There's no possibility. It's happening.
Oh, sweet.
It's I mean, the ink is pretty much drying on paper. Let's put it that way. I mean, I don't want to say that we have like a trailer to show you guys or anything like that, but like, that is a huge priority for me. Again, like if we're going to like priorities for me right now, it's like women's division, the game, and then something else. But like it's up there, it's in like my top 3. So, you know what? I'll even say it. Okay, this is what it is. I got it. So, number 1 priority for me, women's division. Number 2 priority, AEW game. Number 3 priority is bringing AEW to Canada, for real. Yeah.
All right,
So-
Kenny, we got time for one more. We got time for one more.
Sure. Yeah.
I was wondering
Yep.
if you've ever met Andre the Giant and what you thought of him.
No, never did. That was, man, even when I was going to shows, like, locally in Winnipeg, where I grew up in, like, he never came out. Like, yeah, it's unfortunate. He was one of the guys, you know, one of those larger-than-life dudes that you'd wish you could see. Like, when you, like, I'd met King Kong Bundy when I was first starting out in the Indies. It's just amazing how big those guys were. You know, like, you don't really get guys that huge anymore. A lot of us wrestlers, we're pretty small dudes, actually, nowadays. Because it's sort of like, instead of being these larger-than-life, humongous creatures, we're now sort of more like these slender, athletic guys. And, you know, lucky for me, worked for me, because now I fortunately have a career. But, you know, back in the day, like, the heroes that I looked up to, they were humongous. Every single one of them. It didn't matter. Even if you weren't like, I mean, you would never think like Demolition, for example. You don't, when you think of huge guys back in the 80s, 90s, you wouldn't think of a guy like Demolition or even Sergeant Slaughter. But these guys are enormous. Even Jake the Snake Roberts, you don't think, oh, he was a huge guy. No, he's humongous. Yeah, like, yeah, never met Andre, but yeah, everyone from that era, and even when I run into them nowadays at like cons or Starcast or whatever, they're still like these incredibly huge individuals, and a lot of them are super nice guys. And it's just, unfortunately, I never met Andre, but sure wish I could have. Heard a lot of great stories.
Well, I want to thank you. And just to wrap things up, you had mentioned your third priority of bringing AEW to Canada.
Yeah. Working on it, man.
Yeah. So when do you think there might be a live show? And I'm from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, which
Wow.
is interestingly
I've
the
done
closest,
a lot of shows in Thunder Bay.
closest city to Winnipeg, I guess, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Would AEW ever go to Winnipeg, Thunder Bay, those northwestern Ontario, Manitoba towns? But when will it be coming to Canada, or when do you hope a live event from AEW will be showcased?
I think it's a very safe bet. You could fully expect us to be venturing into new countries. I said that plural. Next year. So, I mean, Canada is one of them.
Amazing.
And you can expect some other surprises next year as well. We'll be, we're not just limited to American soil performances. You guys will see us everywhere. And how many we can hit next year, who knows? But again, Canada's a top priority. You know, myself and Chris Jericho, we're making sure of that. So, yeah, you guys can feel, and chances are, you know, this is London, Ontario, and you're close to one of the bigger cities in Canada, so you don't want to give anything away, but you could probably expect something very close to you guys next year.
Wonderful.
All right, amazing. Well, again, thank you all for coming out to the Q&A. We can't thank you enough. Let's get one big cheer for Kenny Omega, and don't forget he's going to
Thank
be
you so
upstairs
much,
again.
guys. Thanks for coming out.
Amazing. Thanks a lot, everyone. Welcome to London Comic Con.